Oh, welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Mark. I am your host, and today on the show, I've got a special guest, and his name is Jerry. Welcome, Jerry.
Hi, how's it going, Mark? What's up, man? Good to be on the show.
Yeah, right. Good. Yeah. Hey, I brought some people for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
The recovery band, Kenny Boys. Yeah, we'll get the volume up there. There you go. It never goes right. Studio audience. Yeah, all right. So, dude, I'm glad that we could finally get together and do this. Like, my people had to call your people had to call my people back. It's been a couple months in the making.
At least a couple months.
Yeah, dude. So how long have you been doing recovery?
I've been in the rooms for about 3 years now.
About 3 years?
Yeah, but I'm not a one-chip wonder. I've had a few relapses along the way, so.
Okay, how much time do you have now currently?
Almost 10 months now this time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's badass. So how about this? Let's talk about your journey a little bit. So, do you remember your first drink?
No. No.
All right.
I remember the time frame of, about the age that I had my first drink. I mean, I probably picked up my first drink around 12 years old.
How old are you now?
I'll be 34 in August.
34? All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what led you to come into recovery? What was it like for you before recovery?
Well, before recovery, I came from a real small town. I came from a town called Sebring, Florida, just between Sebring and Okeechobee, Florida. And drinking was kind of like a way of life where I came from.
Yeah.
I come from a small family. My dad had me late in life. I think my dad was like 45, and real Southern family, and they drank constantly. My dad was a full alcoholic. He's the only functioning alcoholic I've ever met, fully functional.
All right.
My mother was an alcoholic, and it kind of started off with like just being around the wrong crowd for me growing up. I was, and I became the bad influence, honestly. I remember my dad he drank vodka, and, I would take his vodka at night, and me and my buddies would go out and drink his vodka, and we'd get all screwed up. And
the next day, would he ask, where's his vodka at?
Yeah, I remember being a kid and filling up his bottle with water. When he woke up, he wouldn't know it was missing,
Yeah.
But God, life before recovery for me. So, alcoholism and addiction sent me down some really bad paths in my life. I started getting in trouble when I was really young. I remember the first time I ever got in trouble with the law. I snuck a vodka in a Dasani bottle and brought it to school. And me and a bunch of my buddies got all screwed up, and they caught me.
Oh,
yeah, it was bad. And it was really bad. And I started getting in trouble with the law. We started doing we would get screwed up and start doing small robberies, like taking bicycles and just doing things like that. It led up to more serious crimes. We would get blackout. I would get blackout drunk, and I ended up breaking into some houses and stuff before I ever turned 18. And I don't even remember doing it.
Wow.
During complete blackouts.
Wow.
I would wake up in jail, not understanding why I was there. My father would come get me. He would always bail me out. And then, when I turned 20, during a blackout drunk, I committed a bad robbery. And I remember my mom was real sick back then. She had caught multiple sclerosis, and I come from a real troubled family. So my sisters I have twin sisters and a brother that I never talked to.
Yeah.
We don't really have much of a relationship. I became real strained when I was younger because of all the trouble I was getting into, and my sisters, they're my father's daughters, and they weren't really much of a part of my father's life, and this is before I came along, obviously. Me being the youngest, they were already grown whenever I was born, and I just remember it being real strained between my father and my sisters. Wasn't much of a relationship there. So, I remember being really, really young, and they would come around. But as I got older and started getting into trouble, they kind of shunned me, So going back to when I was 20, I committed an armed home invasion that I don't even remember doing. They sentenced me to 8 years in the Department of Corrections.
Oh, wow. Did you do the full 8 years?
I did the full 8 years, yeah.
Wow. What was that like for you, like to go from the streets to being in the Department of Corrections?
Well, for me, it was like, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was just a small town boy, no tattoos, not the biggest guy in the world, you know. And I just remember when they sentenced me, I thought, you know, my life's over. You know, my life's, you know, being 20 years old with an 8-year prison sentence to you, that's the life's over for you, you know.
Yeah.
God, I'll never forget, like, just getting on the bus to go from county jail to prison, and I was just so terrified, not knowing what to expect. Prison was troublesome for me, obviously. I never joined. I promised my father I'd never get any tattoos, never join a gang, and that made it a lot tougher for me.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of had to fight my way through prison.
Wow.
Prison's a world inside of a world. I mean, it's got its own laws. It's got its own rules.
Yeah.
Drugs run rampant in prison. I ended up getting hooked on K2 while I was in prison because that was like the main drug of prison at the time. And I used it the whole time I was in prison.
How were you able to pay for that in prison?
So it's, you know, like you get commissary, you know, your family sends you commissary. Like for me, I was the ticket man. So I did all the sports gambling. I ran all the books and stuff. Learned how to do that. Got really good at it. And that kind of covered my addiction while I was in there.
Yeah.
And it got really bad. Yeah, I remember being in prison and like my addiction was running full rampant in prison.
Wow.
As it does for a lot of people in prison. It's not really noticed out here on the street because, you know, there's no access to the prison world.
Yeah.
But, you know, addiction is just as bad in prison as it is on the street.
Can you get anything in prison?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Anything you want. Just depends on who you are and who you know.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it was really bad for me in prison. I got in a bunch of trouble in prison for it. Was, you know, put in confinement several times for it.
Did you still got out though in the 8 years?
I did. I was released in 2018, still an untreated alcoholic and addict. Went back home. My father let me stay in the mobile home that we owned at the time on the property.
Yeah.
Still an untreated alcoholic addict. Didn't even know what recovery was. Continued drinking. Started drinking real bad. Started using real bad again. And one thing led to another for me, and I ended up getting addicted to methamphetamine.
Oh, yeah, that's brutal stuff.
And that, it got really, really bad for me at that point.
Yeah.
Staying up for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Just doing the regular stuff that addicts do, you know.
Yeah.
Ended up in a bad relationship with a girl, and we were lost in our addiction at the time, and it was just so toxic. Couldn't stay faithful to each other.
Yeah.
Due to the drugs, you know, we weren't faithful to each other at all. She would do whatever it took to get drugs, and I was breaking laws, you know, doing things to get drugs, and it was just really bad, really, really bad. I'll never forget those days.
Yeah. So when did you decide, like, maybe you need to try something different?
So at the time me and her broke up, I had a friend of mine that works at the Salvation Army here.
Okay.
And she was actually an ex-girlfriend of mine.
All right.
And her grandfather lived next to our house over there, and that's how we met years and years ago. And she just called me out of the blue one day and was like, hey, there's this program called CRP, and why don't you come give it a shot? Like, why don't you come try to get sober? And I was like, no. And she called me again, and I finally I was just desperate over there. My father had had enough of me. I had burnt every bridge that you could imagine over there. Had nobody really knew how to handle me over there. I mean, nobody in my family knew what recovery was.
Yeah.
You know, they'd never tried to recover.
Yeah.
So they didn't understand what recovery was. And I just remember talking to my dad about it. It was like, there's this place called CRP over in Sarasota, and it's some kind of like treatment for alcoholism and addiction, and I think I want to go. And I'll never forget it. My father was like, "Let's go," and I loaded a backpack full of clothes and came over here. He drove me over here and dropped me off at the Salvation Army, and she came out and took me inside, and that's kind of how my journey started in recovery.
Yeah. What do you think getting into the Salvation Army?
Well, like for me, it was like a new world over here. Like this recovery thing. I had no clue what to think, how to act. I was fresh out of prison. Didn't know how to communicate with people. Didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't really know what to do at that point in my life. And to me, like, this is a big city over here to me. To me, this is like a big city, you know what I mean? Like, I came from a 2 red light town, like, I'm over here going, whoa, what am I doing over here?
Yeah.
And I lasted, I think, 45 days in the treatment program. I was discharged for fraternizing. But it sets some kind of motion off in my mind.
Yeah.
Like maybe there is something to this. I ended up on the streets of Sarasota for about 4 months. And it was like being in outer space to me, being on the streets of Sarasota.
Holy shit.
Like, it was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like this big city life to me. And so I was homeless down here for a while, and I just remember one day, me and a buddy of mine that I was homeless with, we were walking down on the docks down there at Marina Jack, and there was a sign on LaBarge Tour Boat's desk that they were hiring.
Yeah.
And there was a QR code there for you to scan, and like he had a phone and I didn't, and I'm trying to explain to him how you do the QR code thing and the guy that was the general manager there, I'll never forget him. He was standing there and he was watching me trying to explain it to him. And I was like, "Look, you guys are hiring?" And he was like, "Yeah, and I'm looking for a maintenance guy." And he was like, "Do you know anything about maintenance?" And I just remember I looked at him and I said, "If it's broke, I can fix it." And he was like, yeah, and he just kind of was like, "All right, well, can you be here at 8 o'clock tomorrow in the morning?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be here." And he knew I was homeless. I don't think he took any stock into me being there the next morning.
Yeah.
And I was at the boat at like 7:45 the next morning.
All right.
And he hired me. He hired me being homeless, and he saved my life, ultimately.
Really?
Yeah, he did. I worked there for about a month, and he talked me into going back into the Salvation Army and at least sleeping on the mats in there.
Yeah.
So I wasn't out there sleeping on the ground.
Now this whole trip, like, did you run into stuff you couldn't fix?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'd never. I mean, I had done boat maintenance, like on my father's boats and stuff. We're talking about big vessels over here. You're talking about a 60-foot tour boat.
Oh man.
And I knew how to turn a wrench. I knew general stuff. But the guy taught me the ropes. Like, he taught me everything I know today.
Yeah.
And this was in 2021, early 2021 when this happened. So I stay on the mats for a while, probably about 20, 25 days. And I just remember I would leave the boat every Sunday, and I would go downtown here to the bus station, and there was these people called Streets of Paradise. And they would come down every Sunday and feed the homeless. So I would go down there at lunchtime and get a plate.
Yeah.
And there was a guy named Scott, I'll never forget him, and he would always come up, and we kind of kicked it off, and he was like, I run a halfway house. I manage a halfway house for a recovery program here in town. And like, why don't you come give it a shot? I got a bed ready. And I remember for like 4 or 5 Sundays, this went on for like a month. And I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm living on a tour boat. I'm drinking every day. There's 2 bars on the boat. Like, I'm loving life right now,
Yeah.
And I got robbed at the Salvation Army one night. And they took my backpack, took all my clothes while I was asleep, and took a whole paycheck from me. And like, I was just like, wow, So I remember that Sunday I went down there and I got Scott's number and I said, Scott, I said, what's the address? And he gave me the address to the house and he was like, come on out. I got a bed for you. And so I'll never forget it. Like I pull up on this little 20-inch mongoose bike that I had built myself out by the boat.
Was it a mongoose or was it partially a mongoose?
Well, the frame was a mongoose. And like this house was way out off 17th, and I'm like, I'm not biking all the way out there, so I never used public transportation before.
Yeah.
So I'm lost at the bus station trying to figure out what bus to get, how to get off these buses, how to get around on these buses.
Yeah.
And anyway, I come riding up on the bike, and that's when my recovery really got serious. I really put some effort forth into it. I stayed sober for a while. About 8 months into me being sober for the second time, it's crazy how it played out. So it was complete God shot for me. So we were at a house meeting one night. I had caught COVID, and COVID was running rampant then, and I had COVID. So I didn't go to the house meeting that night. I stayed home, and all the guys that came home, and they were like, yeah, there's this guy Edgar there, and he owns 2 of the houses that are getting rented from this program, and he he's been on TV. He owns a 125-foot boat in Seattle. Well, like I perked my ears up and was like, he owns what? And I was like, that's Edgar Hansen from Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, it can't be. And I was like, y'all get me this guy's number. Like I had watched every season, every episode. Like I knew exactly who this guy was.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting me his number, and it was him.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And,
that's cool.
Yeah. So and he was in treatment, or I'm sorry, he was in recovery.
Okay.
Had about 4 years sober, and I got to talking to him about like what I do down here, and he was like, do you want to come up and work on our boat this summer? And I was like, what? And I really didn't take any stock in it, you know.
Yeah.
I gave him my number, and about 2 weeks later, my phone dinged, and it was my plane ticket. And,
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So you got to go up and go be on his boat. Huh?
Yeah. It was, and like that was one of the biggest gifts of recovery that I've had. So thus far, I was filmed. I was on the Viking Returns.
Nice.
I was on one episode of the Viking Returns.
Nice.
Like it was really.
Yeah. Can I have your autograph?
It was I was a one-hit wonder.
Oh my God!
I'm just
that's awesome though that you got to go do that. Now, when did you end up going back out after that?
So I came home, and I had actually relapsed while I was up there. I was out of town, new in recovery, and when I flew into Seattle, like I realized how big a real big city is.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a big city here. Like, that's a big city.
Yeah.
So I get up there, and like all the guys from the boat, they're all going to the bar every night, like while we're in port. Mm-hmm. And I end up just following them there, like, screw it, I want to fit in,
Yeah, that's a big thing. I want to, people think, I want to fit in. Yeah.
So, like, ended up going to the bars up there, and I drank the whole time I was pretty much up there. So when I flew home, I flew out like June the 6th of 2022. I flew back home August 25th. And I just remember I drank the whole time at the airport, getting ready to get on the plane to come home. Like, I'd already made my mind up. Like, as soon as I get back, I'm going to the Gratitude Club.
You already knew about the Gratitude. Had you been going to the meetings there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I started going to meetings. My first meeting was at the old club.
Oh, yeah, man. That was a great club.
I loved it, man. Like, I miss it so much.
I know, right? It's not there anymore, though.
And the new one's just not the same.
No, it's not. I'm glad they got a place to go, but, like, there was something about that club.
I know.
Like, the dinginess of that.
It almost reminded me of the old dive bars that I used to go to. I was like, with the old wooden floors, and like,
I love that.
Everybody's smoking outside, and I'm I fit right in here.
Yeah, it's a different kind of vibe.
It was.
It wasn't stuck up. Like it was just, I don't know, it was very, something about, I love the recovery in that room.
It was great.
It reminds me of this room over on the other coast called the Sterling Room over on the east coast of Florida. And if you're ever over there and down in Davie, Florida, you gotta go. And it's the only smoking room over there.
Really?
Yeah, and it is like old school. It's like my favorite place to go get my dive bar recovery.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so yeah, the Gratitude Club was incredible. I can't believe it's not there anymore.
I know. It's just wild.
I know, right? It's so wild to go by there and it's just gone.
It's heartbreaking when they tore that down.
So you started going to meetings at the G Club.
Yeah. So when I fly home, you know what I mean? I drank the whole way back on the plane. It takes 2 days to fly up there and back.
Yeah.
From Alaska, it does.
Yeah.
So I fly home, go straight to the Gratitude Club, go back into the same recovery home that I was in, and start kicking off recovery again. And for about 9 months, it went really well. And I've tried my luck with dating in rooms.
Okay.
And
let's talk about it.
Let's dig into it. So, you know, like I've tried my luck, and I haven't had very good luck with it thus far.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like maybe like that got in the way of your recovery?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was so new to recovery, and it's almost like for me, I was trying to fill this hole, from like the love that I'd never gotten as a child, you know?
Yeah.
And it's almost like I was trying to give out the love that I never got as a child. So like I would dig deep, and like every girl I dated in the rooms, I would try to, you know, get in a relationship, and it just never worked for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was due to the fact that most of them didn't know what they wanted. You know, they were young in recovery.
Yeah. You know, you kind of, I don't know, you know, it's like somebody told me once, the two sickies don't make a wellie.
Don't make a well.
Two brokens don't make a fix.
Yes,
exactly. And it's real easy, like that's a great excuse to go back out as like a broken heart, or it didn't work out, or whatever.
Yep.
I went back out because of her, or whatever, you know, it is.
And that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. You know, like and you know, like, and I had some really bad luck with it. You know what I mean? Like I had a girl that broke up with me, and, you know, probably a month later, she ended up with a friend of mine that was one of my house leaders at one point. And
wow.
Yeah. And then I had to like walk around the rooms and see them, and like, you know, it just, I don't know, like morally, if I wouldn't have done that myself, you know, to somebody, but, and it shattered me, you know, it shattered me. I drank over that.
Well, it's good to hear this firsthand, because it's an important thing. It's something that a lot of people don't really talk about. No,
they don't. But I feel like it should be talked about more.
Yeah.
Especially having, you know, conversations like this.
Yeah.
Because it's real, you know, like it's real. Like the majority of us, you know, like I look at it as like, if I'm going to date, like I want to date in the rooms. I want to date someone that's like-minded like me, that are looking for the same goals that I'm looking for, and understand where I've came from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it's like you want to play in your own sandbox.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't work, and the majority of the time it doesn't, you know, you can't use that as an excuse to go out.
Yeah.
You know.
So you've learned from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're dating. You end up going back out.
Go back out. Yep.
Yeah. And so what happened from there?
It was short-lived. I ended up getting arrested for possession of fake weed for K2.
Really?
Yes. So I ended up in trouble here in Sarasota. They put me on probation. I jumped back into recovery for a while. Was doing really good. And I tried my luck at flinging with someone again. And we weren't dating, you know what I mean? But like, here I am, I'm this sickie, and I get attached to anything I put my hands on.
Yeah.
And I get attached to this person, and you know, she's not trying to date at all. You know what I mean? We're just flinging. But I'd known her for a long time. I'd known her since the day I had started in the rooms. Great person, dearly missed. And so we had hung out a few times, and we went out on the boat a few times. I took her out on the barge. I'm still working my job at the barge.
Oh, nice.
At the time, yeah. So, had been out on the boat like the day before. I took her and her son out on the boat the day before, and to make a long story short, I got a phone call the next morning that she had overdosed in her apartment.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How did you handle that?
I didn't. I went back out. Went straight to the bar.
I think I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
That was because what month was that?
Oh shoot. I want to say it was like May.
I had been at the G Club about a month at that point. I think I remember people coming in and talking about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And like for me at the time, like it's almost like, so we kind of like, it was private what me and her, what we had going on, you know what I mean? Like we weren't really, making it known, you know what I mean, to the community. So like I almost felt like I had to hold it in for her dignity and like not tell anybody what had happened with us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that made it a lot. There was a few people in our circle that knew, but not everybody knew. So I felt like I had to hold it in.
Yeah.
And that damaged me even more, you know what I mean? Like not being able to go in the rooms and share about it.
Oh, brother.
Yep.
Wow.
And so I went back out and stayed out for about 4 more months. And June 28th of last year, I was arrested again for possession of synthetic weed, which was K2 again.
Yeah.
And resisting with violence, which they dropped. I took off with the cops' handcuffs.
And, you know how I know I'm an alcoholic? I'm like, you could have at least got arrested with real weed.
Right.
Like, that's the thought that comes into my head.
Yep.
Like, all that for some
fake weed.
Some fake weed. I tried to say synthetic, and it's not quite working out.
Yeah, it's for fake weed.
Oh, man.
So I was on probation when it happened. So I caught the new charges, was on probation. They ended up, they were going to send me back to prison. They'd offered me 40 months.
What?
Yeah, they offered me 40 months back in prison for that. And I asked for treatment. I said, look, I've never really done real treatment, like at a real treatment center, hardcore. I didn't tell them about being in CRP because I didn't make it anyway. So I didn't tell them I'd been there. I said, look, I need treatment. I need real treatment. And they gave it to me.
Where'd you end up going?
They ended up sentencing me to 4 months at the court program. It's this new program that they have here in Sarasota. It's
really?
Yeah, it's basically a prison alternative program.
Is that the one, the first step?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Where you're on lockdown.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did 4 months there, and
how was that?
It changed me. I had a lot going on while I was in there. And for the first time in my life, I was able to handle death and grief without getting screwed up over it.
Yeah.
So, like, my best friend, while I was in there, like, we started at CRP together. We were in CRP, and that's how we met way back in 2021. And we just never gave up on each other. Like, he was like a brother to me. And he died of a self-inflicted overdose behind Grace Life while I was in there.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, and it shattered me. But I was in treatment when it happened, and that was a God shot.
Yeah.
And then my dad passed away 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow. How did you deal with that?
Well, it was I was kind of being in treatment. I was kind of forced to deal with it sober, you know what I mean? Because I was in a lockdown treatment center, and that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I feel like my higher power designed it that way. Just being able to sit in it and deal with it for the first time in my life let me know that it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the hardest things. I remember when my grandfather passed away, the guy that raised me. I couldn't handle it. Like I used over that, like hardcore, and drank over that hardcore. And like so I can relate to not ever being able to really deal with death and grief, you know, and that. So you were in there. Were you able to get out and go to his funeral or no?
So they had let me, the judge had approved me to go on a furlough to go say goodbye to him. So I was able to go over there and spend about an hour and a half with him to say goodbye to him. And I'll never forget for the rest of my life the feeling I had when I pulled away from the house out there. I thought, you know, because of my piss poor decision making, I can't be there with my father when he passes. And that changed me. I can't really explain to you how it changed me, but that's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, was had to pull away from that house with him asking me to stay.
Yeah. And
having to come back over here and lock myself back into treatment. That's the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced in my life. And he died 2 days later. Mm-hmm. So no, I didn't. So I was able to go to the funeral. So he was cremated. And so the relationship with my sisters wasn't very well. While I was over there, my father had been telling me his whole life that he was going to, you know, leave the house to me. My family had owned that property over there for like 80, 90 years. And my sisters, who I hadn't spoken to in like 10 or 12 years, they ended up contacting me and was like, look, the will didn't, you know, the will isn't wrote up right. So we're basically, without telling me, they told me that we're going to take it to court, put it in probate, and force a sale and split it 4 ways.
Yeah.
And I chose not to take it into probate. I was in the program at the time. Couldn't get legal representation, obviously. I'm sitting in treatment, don't have any money. So I said, look, just sell it. He's already gone. So we'll just sell it. So I get out of treatment, in the process selling the house, and we held his funeral there. He was cremated, so we had the military come out and do a gun salute for him, and it was pretty cool.
He was a military veteran.
Yeah, he was a military veteran.
What branch?
He was Army. He was military police in the Army during Vietnam.
Nice.
And like one of the emptiest moments since I've been out of treatment was at the funeral, when me and my brother were the only ones standing there. Like, my sisters didn't even come. And it was like, wow, like this is what the families came to, you know?
Yeah. Like,
it wasn't about my dad, it was about the money for them. You know what I mean? Like, and that was one of the most like emptiest feelings I think that I'd felt in quite a long time, looking around and like, where's my sisters? And they didn't even show up for his funeral.
Yeah.
So sell his house. I go over there, and my sisters help me move the stuff over here and put it in storage. And the first time I'd seen him in like 10 years, and like, I don't know. I almost wanted to go drink over that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're being real about it.
Yeah, you know, I did. I wanted to go drink over it, but I didn't. It sucked though. But you know, like, I'm living this good life over here today. I mean, I'm living a really good life, and it's all because of recovery. You know, like I took the money from my dad's sale. I mean, I've got a truck. I got my license back. I'm working a killer job. I got my own place, and for the first time in my life, like, I'm at peace, you know.
That's beautiful.
Like, I'm at peace for the first time. I didn't even know what peace felt like until now.
Yeah. And you got a sponsor, and you're working the steps.
Yep. I'm doing all that. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, you know. I've been asked to share my story. And, there, you know, like, there's so much more of my story that, you know, we could have talked about. But, you know, that's pretty much the gist of it. You know, I remember, like, I'm 33 years old, and I've been battling this disease for 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's over a third of my life.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, building this new me, it is a brand new me. Like, I didn't become a different person when I drank when I was growing up. Like, that's who I was.
Yeah.
Like, I was raised into it. So, like, I'm trying to build this new me today. And it's not easy. It ain't fucking easy. You know what I mean?
Like, it's never easy.
Yeah.
Well, people I know I fell victim to. Oh, this is going to be easy going into recovery, right? This is going to be a smooth life now, and it's like it's not.
No,
it's not.
It's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah, some days the only thing is as long as I just don't pick up a drink or a drug, I'm good.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, I noticed that this defect popped up today. Maybe if I can correct it, I'm going to work on it. God willing, I get another day tomorrow.
Right. Like there's some days I go to bed, you know what I mean? And I pray and it's like, well, today's a success. Like I didn't drink or drug, but the rest of the day sucked. But today was a success. You know what I mean? Like, the day sucked, but I go to bed sober. So,
Well, that's like trudging the road of happy destiny. That seems to be like the theme lately.
Yes.
It is. It's not all blue skies and kittens.
No, it's not. But I'll say this much, like my worst day sober beats my best day getting fucked up.
Yeah, right?
Like it does,
Yeah.
And like I look back now on the reason why I started drinking, you know what I mean? And like I didn't start drinking because of I was in pain or trying to mask anything. I started drinking because I was seeking pleasure. I was young, it was fun. You know what I mean? Like the parties, the chicks, the feeling.
Yeah, the effect.
The effect of it was great. And
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's crack the big book. Let's do it. Let's see here. Page, the doctor's opinion, XXV, III, or 28 for those of you who want to correct me. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stage of the spree, emerging remorseful, with the firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery.
Yep. Like I seeked pleasure growing up. Yeah. I believe at some point in life, like no matter how people tell their story, like my story goes like this. If you could sum it all up into a few sentences, at one point in I started drinking and using drugs to seek pleasure. The lifestyle was fun. The effects were fun. And at some point in my life, I stopped using it to seek pleasure and I started using it to avoid pain.
Wow.
And when that happened, when that transition happened, that's when my life started taking a turn for the worse.
Yeah.
Right there.
There was a speaker I heard once talk. He says, this isn't in the big book, but it started out as fun, and then it was fun with problems, and then it was just problems.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like you got like pleasure with problems, and then problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like once I started doing it to avoid pain, like I would create my own pain because as I got older, I'm in these toxic relationships, and then they wouldn't work, and then I would go drink over that, and I would get in trouble in the law, and I'd go drink over that. So like it became a domino effect for me of like just creating my own problems because I'm making the decision to either get in these relationships or make these poor choices. And then I would go drink over that and make it worse.
Yeah.
And I just ended up going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I can say is like, since I've been in recovery, they say a belly full of booze and a head full of AA don't mix. And it's the truth. Every relapse I've ever had since I started recovery, the guilt that I would have sitting at the bars or using would not leave me.
Well, it's like, Ian, and the AA police isn't going to come knock on the door. There is no AA police.
Right.
Drop the drink.
Right.
Like, it's not going to happen. But, okay, so I've heard about that. Now, look, I'm coming up on almost 2 years. I haven't gone back out, or anything like that. But I've heard those stories, and my ears perk up when I hear these stories. Because that's what it was informed. Like, listen to these stories. And now you're talking about, like, a belly full of booze and a head full of AA. I haven't experienced that, but what's that like?
So, like when you're in recovery, like we build relationships with people in recovery, and like we entrench ourselves in this community. And like for me, the only people I associate with today is either work related or in this recovery community. Like if you're not doing this recovery thing, like you can't be around me. Like I can't afford it. So like when you pop up and go missing, your phone doesn't stop. With people trying to figure out if you're okay, and like the guilt of ignoring these people alone is so painful because you know you're doing wrong. You know what I mean? And you know these people care about you and you're blowing them off. And like just the guilt of that alone is it's terrible.
They actually care if you live or die.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And that's true. Like none of the dope men that I hung out with ever gave a fuck if I ever lived or died. All they cared about, like, oh, here's your money, and it's like, and the people at the bars didn't give a shit.
Nope.
But people, I've noticed people in recovery actually care.
So like, the only way I could put it to you is like, so imagine sitting at the bar right now. Imagine just going up missing for a day.
And it happens.
Right. Imagine coming up missing for a day.
Yeah.
Your phone wouldn't stop.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's going to wreck your buzz right there.
Yes. Like your phone wouldn't stop.
Oh, man.
And just the thought and the guilt of doing that is like, you're sitting at the bar and you're fucking up. And these people that love and care about you, you're blowing them off.
Yeah.
And just the guilt from that is terrible. And like for me, like my relapses, just sitting there knowing that I'm ruining everything that I've got going on right now. And I know this better way of life, and I'm choosing the other way, and I don't care right now.
That's a great message for the newcomer to hear, or anybody that's, maybe in their last 30 days.
Yeah.
Because you hear about that all the time. Like sometimes you don't even know you're in your last 30 days.
Yep.
Or sometimes I've heard people talk about planning a relapse and then something either happens and they don't go back out or they end up going back.
Right.
Yeah, the way you describe that, it's just like, it sounds like just pure hell.
Oh, it sucks. It is. It's hell on earth. And for me, the rabbit, like I hit bottom so much quicker. Like it wouldn't take me long. It's like, okay, I know I'm destroying my life. Let's go on ahead and destroy it. You know what I mean? And either the cops will save me or something fucking will happen.
Blow it up real good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like for me, each time like it got bad quick because I would make it go bad quick. It's like I'm hammered down. I've got nothing to lose.
Wow. And now you've got 10 months.
Right.
How do you feel now at 10 months? Do you feel better in recovery this time around? Because when I hear about people going back, maybe sometimes people need that. Certain people do.
This time for me is way different. And like I think a lot of new people in recovery that are just starting to give it a shot, and like you're living in halfway houses and you may be, your transportation may be bike or bus, and the beginning of recovery can be a shitty life, a very miserable, boring life for new people in recovery. Yeah. I know it was for me, having to get up and ride a bike to a bus, to go to work every day, and I'm making shit money at a shit job. And I've got these rules, and I've got to go to these meetings, and I've got these curfews, and like your whole life is dictated by the halfway house that you're in, and they want to know everything about your personal life, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Like that really does suck. You're already trying to stay sober.
Yeah.
And then your whole life is dictated, and your whole life is put on a microscope by these recovery homes and whatever it is, and you're fighting to stay sober. You want your sobriety, you know what I mean? And like that can be depressing, very depressing.
Yeah, it's very ego deflating.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know what I mean? And like I understand what the purpose of the halfway houses are. Like obviously I did them for a few years.
Yeah.
But there's some programs that just like, take it too far. You know what I mean? The program itself becomes so overwhelming that they just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. Like you're getting it from a very real angle on that. Like that's I can see where that, could happen.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like I've been to a few different programs, and like I've been to some good programs. You know what I mean? Like that, you're allowed to live life.
Yeah.
As long as you stay sober. You know what I mean? You come home by your curfew, you pass your urinalysis, and you can live your life. You can have a personal, private life. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there are some other programs out there that just like, they want to know why you're dating, who you're dating, where you're going. They want you to get on Messenger and share your location to make sure you're at a meeting. That means that there's no trust between you and the halfway house. So that'll put something in your mind right there. It's like, why do I have to share my location at a meeting? Like, there's no trust.
Well, like you were saying, like, I get why they do those things. Like, I get it. But on the other hand, too, it's kind of like, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like splitting hair.
It is.
It is. It's like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, I don't. But at the same time, I can't really be trusted, but I want to be trusted. Like,
right.
Like that. Yeah, I can remember being in halfway, and my halfway wasn't too strict as long as I was home by curfew, and I had to have a 90-90 sheet that I had to have filled out every day and signed by the chair. And that was a great excuse to not be at the halfway. So I'm like, oh, this is too much. Come home every other day, drug tested, if not whenever, it would just be random. But yeah, living in halfway can be a little chaotic too.
It can.
You're shoved in there with how many dudes in a room.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to go to that point. You know what I mean? Like, I've been at halfway houses where, like, you're looking at like a 3 or 4 bedroom. You know what I mean? There's like 12, 14 people stuffed in this house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it makes you wonder, like, well, what's the motive here? Is it for our recovery, or is it about the money? You know what I mean? Like, why is there 4 people stuck in one room on 2 bunk beds in every room of the house? You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
there's one kid, like, and it just like, and it'll set things off in your mind after you've been there a while. You'll sit around and look, and it's like, I don't want to be here.
I couldn't move into my halfway for like I was only there a month and a half, but for the first month I couldn't move in. I kept all my shit in the car. Whatever little possessions I had and stuff, I was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
But see, in a way, that's my ego.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is, right? Like, it's the ego. But and it's very humbling, but I get it. And once again, it's a double-edged sword.
It is. Like, they have things and procedures in place for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, one of the biggest things that I don't agree with the halfway houses is, like, so I've relapsed at a halfway house, and I understood that I relapsed, and I tried to come home the next day and say, okay, I screwed up. You know what I mean? Like, let me jump back into this thing. You know what I mean? And then they would kick me out on the street.
Yeah.
And then I would just be completely lost in my addiction because, like, I don't have a safe place to go to.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of where the halfway house, I think that's where, how can I put this? The procedure as a whole fails right there, because we're alcoholics and we're addicts.
Yeah.
We slip, you know what I mean? And like, when someone's begging, and they go, okay, I slipped, like, let me jump back into this thing. You know what I mean? And they're like, no, you got to go pack your shit. Yeah. And it's like, there's the double-edged sword again. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it is, yeah. Like, they care, but also too, like, are they protecting the other people in there?
Right.
Are they like, well, maybe you need to learn your lesson. Like, they're not going to co-sign your BS.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I get what you're saying. So
like,
it's like, this conversation, right? You're playing both sides of the field here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's like you're giving real input on this.
Yeah, like, I've been there, I've done that. You know what I mean? Like, and I would be like begging for help. Like, okay, I screwed up. Like, I'm going to lose everything here. I'm going to lose my job, everything that I've worked so hard for. Like, let me come back in and give me some time to test negative again, get it out of my system in a few days. And they'd be like, no, pack your shit. And then I'd lose everything and be lost in my alcoholism and addiction again when I was begging for help. You know what I mean? Like, okay. So but at the same time, you get why they do it. You know what I mean? So
yes. This is the best conversation I've ever had about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is well, yeah. But also too, so let's go ahead and play the other side of what you just said. Let's go ahead and flip that coin again.
Okay.
All right. So if they would have said, okay, yeah, come back in, do you think you would have learned your lesson, or do you think you wouldn't have?
Oh, there was at least, I would have learned my lesson, I think, simply because, like, okay, I went back out and that shit sucked. It was painful. It hurt. Like, I went out for a night and I'm hurting right now. And I realized what I don't want to do anymore now. You know what I mean? I had to go out there and do some research for a night. And, like, I could, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, fuck, I could lose my job now. I could lose everything I've worked for. Like, okay, now I understand a little bit better about what a relapse is and why you don't want to do it. So, and then I would get kicked out and I'm on the street and it's like, well, fuck, I might as well go to the bar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm homeless tonight. I'm sleeping on the fucking concrete.
Wow. Jerry, you've hit this reel, like, as far as that. So let me ask you this before we wrap it up. What are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for me, I'm just grateful for people that didn't give up on me. You know what I mean? Like, there were, and I'm grateful to my higher power. Like, my higher power showed me things. Here's something I've learned is, like, so, you have the saying in the rooms that, you take your will back. And when you take your will back, bad things happen. Like, and I have a different view on it, you know what I mean? But it's my program, and I have a different view. My view is this, is like, so God gave us free will. So I didn't take back anything. God gave me my free will. Uh-huh. That was God given, you know what I mean? And I choose what I want to do with my free will. I can either use it to make piss poor decisions and destroy my life, or I use it to better my life and to do good things and be of service with my will. You know what I mean? But it's my will and it's my destiny, and I'm thankful to God for giving me my free will. You know what I mean? Like, because I can do great things with my free will, or I can do terrible things with my free will, but it's my will. But if I choose to use it to be in this recovery community and I choose to be of service to people, to be of service to the community, use my will with good moral standing, then God's given me a gift that I can give to other people.
Wow. That's actually a very real angle that you hit that from. You have a choice. You're sober today. You have a choice. Do I want to go out and fuck my shit up? Or do I want to stay sober and do the next right thing?
Right.
Yeah, it's
and it's your free will to do it, to do as you wish with it.
Well, you put in the action, the results is God's will.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, really? My phone goes off. right at the end.
I enjoyed this though. I really did. I enjoyed this. Like, I'd love to do. I would love to get me and my sponsor in here one time and let my sponsor rip it with us one time. He's a cool dude. But I really enjoyed this. I think it was a good opportunity for me to get some message out and just give some of my story out, share my experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Your experience, strength, and hope was amazing today. And what do you got for the newcomer before we go?
Don't give up. Don't give up before the miracle happens. And I know that that's a cliche that's said in the rooms, and you'll hear it a lot. But, like, if you work this thing and you really put the effort forth, and it takes time, like I've spoken to some, and I'm speaking for the people like I was just talking about, the people that are in a halfway house right now. They're biking and they're busing to work, and life sucks. It gets better. Yeah. I promise it gets better.
Yeah.
Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it will materialize if we work for it.
That's amazing. That is, and it sounds like you're working for it. And,
I am.
And dude, I wish you the best of luck in your journey. So look, here's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna end up doing an episode with your sponsor, and I think I'll have you and your sponsor on together.
All right.
Like maybe after maybe you get your year or something.
And it's perfect because so me and him have been doing this. He's been a good friend of mine since the day I met him the first day I was at the Gratitude Club. So, he knows me we were friends before he was my sponsor.
Yeah.
And, he knows me he's watched me walk through this journey.
He'll call your BS, won't he?
Oh, he'll call my shit real quick. Real quick. You know how he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He's a good dude, though. You know what I mean? And he can... We could walk through some things together up here. I think it'd be really good for the listeners. And he's really old school and he's real raw and blunt and to the point. And some people need to hear that.
Well, that's one thing I do respect about him. Absolutely. So, it looks like we have a couple of episodes coming.
Yeah, I'm game.
Yeah. Well, plus too, having these times in recovery, you have it 10 months now. Absolutely, I want to have you back on because it's always good. Like right now, I'm doing an update series with I just had a friend of mine on for the other because I'm gonna have another friend on, and it's like because it's important. That's what we do. We check up on people.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, especially what's going on in your life.
No.
Yeah, and so that's Jerry. Thank you so much for sitting down today and for doing this.
Thank you for having me, man. This was an honor.
No, it's an honor to have you. But the thing is like we finally made it happen, and it happened when it was supposed to happen. Where it was supposed to happen.
We've been trying to do this for months.
All right. Well, look, the recovery band's going to take us out.
All right.
They're going to kick that funk. Are you ready?
Yep.
They're ready.
Let's do
Kick it, boys. They might know another song at some point. It's studio audience. That was just for you. So, all right, brother. All right, goodbye, everyone, and be well.
Yep.
Yeah.